Kate, the Future Queen, by Kate Nicholl. Chapter 13. A very important announcement. Still riding high following the success of the Diamond Jubilee celebrations, Kate was excited to be closely involved with the 2012 Olympic Games at the end of the summer. Both she and William believed it was a way of uniting the nation, and with the eyes of the world once again on the capital, they were eager to do their part to promote Great Britain. Kate was fortunate enough to join the British women's hockey team for a practice match, proving she was still deft at the game by scoring a goal. She and William travelled to Dorset to watch the British sailing team and were in the stands cheering on his cousin Zara Phillips as she secured the silver medal in the equestrian eventing final. Hugging each other as they watched Chris Hoy pedal to victory, William and Kate reflected the overriding excitement of the nation as another member of Team Great Britain added a medal to the tally. It had been an idyllic summer for Kate, with plenty to celebrate. William had turned 30 at the end of June, marking the milestone birthday with a small party with their friends. The prince's coming of age was seen by the media as a pivotal moment, and there was much speculation about what he planned to do with his future. His tour of duty with the RAF was due to end in the spring of 2013, fueling questions about whether he would quit the RAF in order to take on more royal engagements. There was talk among senior courtiers that William would have to start taking on more public engagements to relieve the pressure on the Queen and the increasingly frail Duke of Edinburgh. One source commented, "William has been told he has to decide whether he wants to be a pilot or a prince." There was also the question at the back of everybody's mind as to when Kate and William might start a family. In consideration of all this, William was given an extended deadline until after Christmas to make up his mind about his RAF career. Kate, meanwhile, was settling into her new role as a working royal. By the end of the jubilant summer of 2012, she had carried out a handful of engagements. Wanting to bring a personal touch to her charities, she had invited a number of children from the art room to Kensington Palace to watch an exclusive screening of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. She also hosted a barbecue for the Scout Association on a beach close to her home in Anglesey, during which she helped the children gut fish and catch crabs. Her very first garden party at Buckingham Palace was, unsurprisingly, one of the most popular of the season. In fact, the only thing that overshadowed an otherwise fulfilling summer was the publication in Woman's Day of photographs of her and William on their honeymoon in the Seychelles. Although it was 15 months after their holiday, the pictures of the couple swimming in the sea and walking on the beach were still deemed newsworthy by the Australian magazine. The British newspapers had made a deal with the palace to leave the couple alone during their honeymoon and consequently refused to publish the images, but William and Kate were disappointed that not everyone had respected their wishes. When they flew to the south of France at the end of August, they both fervently hoped they would be left alone by the world's press. It felt entirely possible. The Queen's nephew Lord Linley, the son of William's aunt, the late Princess Margaret, had lent William and Kate his beautiful hunting lodge, the Château d'Ortit, in the Luberon region in Provence, where they were promised total peace and privacy. Set on 640 acres of countryside and surrounded by fields of lavender, the terracotta, tiled house was exquisite. They spent their days reading, relaxing on the sun terrace, and swimming in the pool. Secure in the knowledge that the area had been swept by their security team, Kate felt confident enough to slip off her bikini top as she sunbathed by the pool one afternoon. Toned from vigorous sessions in the gym, she was confident in her body and wanted to look her very best. Sunbathing topless was not something she usually did. When Pippa had once sunbathed topless in Ibiza, she was photographed by a paparazzo and Kate learned a valuable lesson. But here, at a family member's holiday home on private land, she believed she was safe. Kate had recently stopped drinking alcohol and, taking advice from her friends who had had babies, was eating plenty of lean protein and dark green vegetables, rich in folic acid. At 30, the age at which she had always hoped to have a child, it seemed that Kate was preparing herself. It was reported in the press that she had consulted a fertility expert in order to ensure that she would have no problems getting pregnant, but the palace refused to comment on the story. Once their holiday was over, William and Kate began to concentrate on their royal tour of Asia and the South Pacific. On September 10, 2012, the couple boarded a Singapore Airlines flight to Shanghai International Airport, where they were greeted by ecstatic crowds. The British High Commissioner to the Republic of Singapore, Anthony Phillipson, was in charge of accompanying William and Kate on their engagements, and he described them as global superstars. When they visited the Singapore Botanic Gardens to name an orchid in their honor, hundreds of people waited for hours to see them, and throughout their stay in the city, well-wishers camped outside the Raffles Hotel in the city centre where William and Kate were staying. Despite the intense heat, Kate displayed an abundance of energy and enthusiasm, her warm smile putting people at ease. In Kuala Lumpur, she delivered her debut overseas speech at the Hospice Malaysia with confidence, the audience moved by the heartfelt emotion of her words. Kate had been eager to use this occasion to direct the spotlight on the work of hospices, as she knew that with her profile, she could raise awareness globally. It was while they were in Malaysia that a French magazine, Closer, made an audacious decision to publish a paparazzo's pictures of Kate sunbathing topless in the south of France. William and Kate had had no idea they had been photographed by a long lens, and because of the time differences, by the time they woke on the other side of the world, the magazine was already being sold on newsstands in France, the pictures a global sensation. Briefed over breakfast by their private secretary, Jamie Lowther Pinkerton, they were furious, finding the publication of such personal images devastating and the timing deeply embarrassing. The tour had been going so well, and to be thrust into the headlines in such a humiliating manner was extremely stressful. Nevertheless, William and Kate continued with a visit to the Asiakarin Mosque, the largest in the country. In keeping with religious protocol, Kate covered up in a pale grey dress and wore a headscarf. Jamie Lowther Pinkerton had advised them that the best policy was to smile and carry on with their work, and as they made their way to their next appointment, a visit to a public park to watch a cultural show, Kate smiled as she shook hands and accepted bouquets from well-wishers. It was only at the end of the day, according to aides on the tour, that they finally got to see the pictures and the salacious headline, "Oh my God!" The photos that will go around the world. Aides in London were in talks with lawyers in Paris in a bid to get an injunction so that the pictures could not be reproduced, while the palace announced it planned to take legal action against the photographer and the magazine at the behest of the couple. Back in Britain, newspaper editors unanimously agreed they would not publish the pictures, but this news in itself was a front-page story broadcast around the world. Later that afternoon, within minutes of leaving a tea party at the British High Commission, William instructed his aides to issue a statement condemning the magazine and the photographer that read, "Their Royal Highnesses have been hugely saddened to learn that a French publication and a photographer have invaded their privacy in such a grotesque and totally unjustifiable manner. The incident is reminiscent of the worst excesses of the press and paparazzi during the life of Diana, Princess of Wales, and all the more upsetting to the Duke and Duchess for being so." Back in England, Prime Minister David Cameron denounced the magazine. "We echo the anger and sadness of the palace. They are entitled to their privacy." The thorny ethics of privacy and the royal family were always a concern, but unfortunately for Kate and William, it was at this moment hugely topical. Several weeks earlier in August, Prince Harry had found himself in hot water after being photographed naked, cavorting with a young woman while playing a game of strip billiards with a group of friends. The image was leaked to the American gossip website TMZ, and within hours of being posted, the photograph had gone global, despite attempts by St. James's Palace to have it removed. The Sun later published the picture on its front page, despite a request not to do so from St. James's Palace via the Press Complaints Commission. Kate's situation, however, was perceived differently. People took a less judgmental line. She hadn't been doing anything controversial, and one aide summed the mood up well: Their Royal Highnesses had every expectation of privacy in the remote house. It is unthinkable that anyone should take such photographs, let alone publish them. Back in the Far East, Kate remained dignified throughout this episode, a combination of her calm personality and well-honed media training. Arriving in Borneo, they were both determined to enjoy their visit to the Danam Valley Field Centre in Sabah, as they had been looking forward to seeing endangered orangutans in the rainforest there, and by the time they visited the Solomon Islands, they looked truly happy and relaxed, making it appear more like a honeymoon than a working tour. Returning home a few days later, William and Kate wanted to get back to normal. While the prince reported for work at RAF Valley, Kate stayed in London so she could visit their new apartment at Kensington Palace. The extensive refurbishment of apartment 1A was well underway. It involved complete rewiring of the 17th-century palace, an overhaul of the antiquated plumbing, and the removal of asbestos from the property. Kate was closely involved with the redesign, cutting ideas out of home magazines for mood boards like those she had used for her wedding. Although the British taxpayer was picking up the bill for the renovation work, William and Kate were paying for interior redecoration, and Kate busied herself selecting fabrics, wallpapers, and paint colors. As well as William and Kate's London apartment, which was to be their principal family home, the Queen had gifted them Amner Hall on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. As a child, William had spent many happy weekends at the late Georgian property, which had once been the home of the Van Cutsum family. Plans were being submitted to the local council for some additional building work to make the property more private and secure, and much to Kate's relief, the house would be available to her parents at Christmas, now that she was expected to be at Sandringham for the holidays. Meanwhile, Michael and Carol were also house hunting. Party Pieces, whose staff now comprised 30 full-time team members, was reported to be making profits worth millions of dollars. They had made an offer on a beautiful Grade II, listed Georgian house called The Manor, half a mile from Oak Acre in Bucklebury. Situated off a quiet and secluded country lane, it afforded privacy and space, with wonderful views over the surrounding fields and the picturesque Pang Valley. The 18-acre property had a swimming pool, a tennis court, 7 bedrooms, a library, an elegant drawing room, and an impressive entrance hall decorated with hand-painted silk wallpaper. There were also a number of outbuildings on the property that could be used by William and Kate's security team when they visited. Carol and Michael seemed to have relaxed into their role as royal in-laws, but Pippa was still going through a period of adjustment. Although she had been placed in Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world and was concentrating on her career as a professional party planner, she faced a backlash in the media, accused of cashing in on her royal association when she signed a 6-figure book deal to write her first book on the art of entertaining. And when she was photographed in Paris with a male friend who brandished a fake gun at a photographer following their car, Pippa found herself having to navigate out of a media storm without the sophisticated palace PR machine to assist her. She was making more headlines, at times, than her sister. Still, Kate was not short of column inches, and speculation was growing over when she and William might start a family. Since the autumn, she and William had been busy opening exhibitions and traveling around the country on official engagements. In November, they visited Cambridge, their namesake, for the very first time to open a support centre for the homeless. When William was presented with a tiny sleepsuit bearing the words "Daddy's little co-pilot," he appeared delighted and said, "I'll keep that," prompting a frenzy on Twitter that Kate might be expecting. However, when she readily accepted an invitation to open a new sports field at her old school, St Andrew's Prep, and joined an impromptu game of hockey in a pair of high-heeled boots. She put royal watchers off the scent that she might be pregnant, and instead the media reported on her attractive new bangs. The truth, however, was that Kate was nearly 2 months pregnant. Only William, her mother, and Pippa knew, 8 weeks being far too early to make an official announcement. Kate and William had decided they would make the announcement at Christmas after the baby's first scan, but Kate was overwhelmed by severe morning sickness. Initially, she was not alarmed, having read up on the early stages of pregnancy, but when the sickness did not abate after a weekend of being violently ill, William called the royal physician. It was early December, and the prince had been away shooting in Hampshire. When Kate called to tell him she was feeling even worse, William drove to Bucklebury. On Monday, she still showed no signs of improvement, so the royal doctor advised her to go to King Edward VII's hospital in central London. There, Kate was diagnosed with hyperemesis gravidarum, acute morning sickness, a serious condition that risks depriving the mother and baby of essential nutrients. Worried about his wife and unborn baby's health, William had to deal with the likelihood that Kate's condition and hospitalization might be leaked to the press or, worse still, go global on Twitter. After speaking with Jamie Lowther Pinkerton, it was agreed that St James's Palace would issue a statement confirming the pregnancy, announcing that Kate had been admitted to the hospital. As he had ahead of news of their engagement, William called his grandmother and father to tell them of Kate's condition and forewarn them that her pregnancy was about to be made public. William also emailed Harry, who was then serving in Afghanistan. While Kate was put on a rehydration drip and bed rest, the news was announced via a press statement and Twitter, both of which led to the couple's official website crashing. Within moments, there was a frenzy of excitement around the world, where 24-hour news channels and newspapers dedicated their broadcasts to the conception of a new third-in-line to the throne. On Twitter, the news started trending within minutes, with celebrities and politicians exclaiming their joy and sending the couple their best wishes. A cause for national celebration, David Cameron was among the first to publicly extend his congratulations to the couple, together with the Archbishop of Canterbury, who had married them. Across the Atlantic, President Obama and his wife issued a statement saying that it was welcome news. But the excitement was, of course, muted, the concern about Kate's health and the early stages of pregnancy at the forefront of people's minds. Although the palace had refused to comment on how many weeks pregnant she was, they said that she would remain in the hospital for several days and will require a period of rest thereafter. In the press, there was speculation about when the couple might have conceived, the due date, and whether, because of the acute morning sickness, they might be expecting twins. There was much commentary over the implications should the couple's firstborn be a daughter, because revisions to the Succession to the Crown Act were being passed through Parliament during the current session. The Queen, who was sympathetic to Kate's condition, having suffered from morning sickness herself, was aware that the proposed changes to the laws of succession were of paramount importance. Then there was also the matter of a title and the proposed amendments to ancient legislation drafted by King George V in 1917 that stipulated that the Her Royal Highness title should be restricted to the children of the sovereign, the children of the sovereign's sons, and the eldest son of the Prince of Wales's eldest son, meaning that if William and Kate were to have a daughter, she would not have an Her Royal Highness title. Column inches were devoted to who might be asked to be godparents, with Pippa and Harry being named as favourites. Prince Charles spoke of his delight at the prospect of becoming a grandfather, telling reporters, "I'm thrilled, marvellous. It's a very nice thought to become a grandfather in my old age, if I can say so." Michael and Carol visited Kate in the hospital but declined to comment to the press, and 3 days later, Kate was discharged. William, who had been at his wife's side every day, accompanied her down the hospital steps. Sensibly wrapped up against the winter chill in a coat and scarf and holding a pretty bouquet of yellow flowers, Kate looked tired but happy. As she walked to her waiting car, she smiled at the cameraman and waiting crowds. "I'm feeling much better, thank you," she said. Accompanied by a police escort, the couple headed straight home to Kensington Palace so that Kate could rest. She was advised to stay in London rather than head back to their home in Anglesey so that she could be readmitted to the hospital quickly if she suddenly became ill again. A team of doctors, including the Queen's surgeon-gynaecologist, Alan Farthing, and his predecessor, Marcus Setchell, were on call 24 hours a day to take care of her. She was under strict orders to rest and keep hydrated. Her aides cancelled all immediate engagements, hoping that the media interest would die down now that Kate was out of the hospital. This might have been the end of this unfortunate beginning to Kate's pregnancy, but a tragedy was around the corner. During Kate's admission, a pair of Australian DJs had made a prank call to the King Edward VII's hospital, impersonating the Queen and Prince Charles and asking to be put through to Kate. It was the middle of the night in the United Kingdom, and despite their unconvincing accents, they were transferred by a nurse manning the switchboard to the ward where Kate was being treated and given an up-to-date medical briefing on Kate's condition by the attending nurse. The presenters Mel Gregg and Michael Christian, who worked for Sydney's two-day FM breakfast show, broadcast the call live and described it as the easiest prank call we've ever made. When news of the hoax call broke, there was outrage. William was said to have been livid, while the chief executive of the hospital, which has treated members of the royal family for decades, described it as a foolish prank, launching an immediate investigation into the hospital's phone security. But then things took a serious turn, and just days after the hoax call, Jacinta Saldana, the nurse who had transferred the DJ's phone call to Kate's ward, was found hanged in her nurse's accommodation. According to her family, the 46-year-old mother of two had taken her own life because she was so ashamed of what she had inadvertently done. Kate was at Kensington Palace when she received the news, and according to her aides, she was devastated, as was William. What should have been the happiest announcement of their lives had been overshadowed most terribly by a pointless death. Kate was told to try to remain calm for the sake of her unborn baby. The palace refused to comment, but privately she was said to be badly shaken. When William returned to work at RAF Valley, Carol and Pippa moved into the palace until she was given the all-clear by her doctors to go to Bucklebury, where she continued to make a good recovery. As this was only days before Christmas 2012, it was agreed that it would be more relaxing for Kate to remain with her family in Oakacre. Naturally, William wanted to be with Kate, and for the first time after quietly celebrating her 31st birthday at home, Kate and William decided to join the Middletons for their annual trip to Mustique. This year, Pippa's new boyfriend, stockbroker Nicholl Jackson, was joining them, but the relaxing holiday was overshadowed when Kate and William were photographed walking on one of the island's beaches. Once again, the British papers agreed not to publish the images, but Kai, an Italian gossip magazine, splashed on its cover the images of Kate showing her small bump-off in a bikini, much to the couple's wrath. They were still reeling from the topless pictures and disappointed, according to palace aides, that once again their privacy had been invaded at a deeply personal time in their lives. Returning home, Kate was unwittingly at the center of a controversy involving a lecture given by the award-winning novelist Hilary Mantel, in which she appeared to criticize the Duchess. The media widely reported the author's comparison of Kate to a machine-made princess and a shop window mannequin with a plastic smile, and though Hilary Mantel insisted her comments had been taken out of context, Kate rose above the distorted media coverage, smiling for the cameras as she left Hope House, an all-women's shelter that she supported. Now that she was feeling better, she was determined to fit in as many engagements as she could before retiring from public life to prepare for the birth. In March, she braved the snow to join a Scout volunteer training day in Windermere in the Lake District. There was an even greater surge of goodwill toward the couple now that a baby was on the way. During a walkabout at a St. Patrick's Day parade in Aldershot in Hampshire, Guardsman Lee Wheeler asked her, "Do you know if it's a girl or boy?" To which she replied, "Not yet. I'd like to have a boy and William would like a girl. That's always the way." When Kate, William, and the Prince of Wales opened a new outdoor centre for young people at Dumfries House, Kate let slip to one staff member that the baby was due in mid-July, then adding, "although babies have their own agenda." The couple's press officers refused to confirm the exact date, and Kate showed no signs of slowing down. At every engagement she attended, Kate seemed to glow. Her skin was radiant, her trademark hair was even glossier and thicker than usual, and she continued to thrill the fashion brigade by stepping out in gravity-defying designer heels. She was quizzed constantly about how she was feeling and whether she was nervous about the imminent arrival, but she didn't seem to tire of the attention. It was reported that the couple had bought a pale blue baby carriage, and British bookmakers took bets on what the couple would call their firstborn, with Elizabeth, Alexandra, and Charlotte being the most popular girls' names and George, James, and Alexander the favourites for a boy. Like the royal wedding, it was a great opportunity for the memorabilia market, and manufacturers around the country were keen to cash in on the eagerly anticipated arrival. In true British style, there was a surge of royal-themed baby goods, from Her Royal Highness embossed sleepsuits to crown-crested potties. Even the gift shops at the royal palaces stocked up on baby-themed memorabilia. Meanwhile, Kate had not one but 3 nurseries to furnish. As well as Kensington Palace, where the nursery occupies most of the top floor, the couple had a designated baby room at Michael and Carol's house and at their new Norfolk home. They were still not sure whether they would be remaining in Anglesey long-term, but provisions were made in their Welsh home for the baby. Intriguingly, there were reports in the British newspapers that Kate planned to move back home with her parents once William's 2-week paternity leave was up. This was met with a degree of surprise by courtiers at the palace, who had expected Kate and the newborn heir, as was traditional, to stay in royal residence. Although Diana had pushed the boundaries of royal protocol when William was born by opting to give birth in a hospital rather than a palace, this was a first. Kate had also decided against hiring a nanny and a maternity nurse, instead choosing to have her mother on hand to help her in the early weeks of motherhood. She told friends she hoped to have a natural birth, and she started to get familiar with breathing techniques to assist her in labor. Like her own mother, she planned to breastfeed. When she was photographed shopping for baby clothes and a Moses basket in Kensington with Carol, it was evident just how closely involved with the baby preparations Carol was. There was even some speculation in the tabloid press that Kate wanted her mother in the delivery room. William was open to the idea of Kate moving back home after the birth, even if it did pose something of a problem for the protection officers and courtiers who were said to be concerned about the plan. The idea had its advantages, as the couple had been told that their apartment in Kensington Palace would not be ready in time for the birth because the discovery of asbestos had delayed the renovation schedule. They were still living at Nottingham Cottage with its 2 small bedrooms, so the more spacious prospect of her family home was appealing. The couple had decided that the baby would be born at the private Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital, a national health facility where the royal family's gynaecologist Alan Farthing is based and where both William and Harry were born. Such was the importance of the impending birth that Marcus Setchell, the Queen's surgeon gynaecologist, postponed his retirement so that he could help deliver the baby. Once Kate had carried out her final engagement, the trooping the colour at Buckingham Palace on June 15, it was time for her to bow out of the limelight and figure out her birth plan. On the advice of friends, she consulted London-based antenatal expert Christine Hill. Rather than go to a session attended by other expectant mothers, Kate booked 2 private appointments so that she and William would have some idea of what to expect. Together they mastered breathing techniques that help with pain management during labor, and Christine Hill, who described Kate as a delightful girl, advised her to relax as much as possible. It was a hot summer, and Kate retreated to her new family home as often as she could, grateful for the use of the swimming pool. Although she joked that excitement over Andy Murray's sensational win at Wimbledon might bring on an early labor, she pretty much took things easy as instructed. While her family joined the royals for the Coronation Festival to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Queen's anniversary at Buckingham Palace in July, Kate stayed at home and put her feet up. It had been reported in the British press that Kate was due to give birth on July 13, so since the end of June, the media had been assembling outside the Lindo wing. Photographers equipped with extra-long ladders secured their positions with black duct tape, even paying members of the public to keep their place overnight. Broadcasters from around the world followed suit, and within days the entire pavement was crammed with journalists and reporters, all anxious to be the first to report the news of the birth. It was one of the hottest summers in England on record, and as the mercury soared into the high 90s, the ongoing story known as the Great Kate Wait in the media dominated the news headlines. The merest hint of activity fueled a frenzy that Kate had gone into labor. When a helicopter landed at Kensington Palace or a police car swept through Bucklebury, the cameras were ready to roll, and news desks around the world were on red alert. False rumors that the Duchess had gone into labor sent the Twittersphere into a meltdown on more than one occasion. The couple, however, stayed remarkably calm, and while Kate spent the weekend of her reported due date with her family in Bucklebury, William, who was still working shifts at RAF Valley, played a charity polo match at Cirencester in Gloucestershire, a helicopter on standby just in case. By the following weekend, there was still no announcement from the palace. It wasn't just the hot and flustered media throng that was growing impatient. Charles and Camilla continued their engagements around the country and admitted to well-wishers that they were waiting for the telephone to ring, while the Queen told one little girl during a walkabout at Lake Windermere in Cumbria that she hoped the royal baby would hurry up, because she was planning to go to Balmoral for her annual vacation. It was in the early hours of Monday, July 22, that Kate finally went into labor, and the couple was driven into the hospital through one of the back entrances, cleverly giving the assembled press pack camped at the front of the hospital the slip. At 7:30 a.m. the palace press office issued a statement confirming that Kate was in the early stages of labor, and that things were progressing normally, news that was broken to the world via the rolling news networks and broadcast on every radio station. The Great Kate Wait was nearly over.